Fulham, Monday night, derby against fellow top 7 chasers, Brentford. Let's have some Fulham love. We've got the Athletics Fulham correspondent in for that very purpose. Peter Rutzler. Hello, Peter.
Hello, James.
Hello. What a season for the Cottagers. Well, they were 6th when I wrote that. What a season for the Cottagers. 7th now. Liverpool just gone above them midweek. 90 minutes from Wembley. And in their first quarter-final in the FA Cup since 2010.
Yeah, it's been quite something. Well beyond any expectations, I think. I think any Fulham fan would have bitten your hand off for 17th. That's literally what anyone would have wanted, considering the yo-yo years and up and down and that lack of sort of top-flight stability. But this season has been quite extraordinary, and it's all really down to Marco Silva and the impact he's had, both in the Championship and now in the Premier League as well.
Their previous promotion seasons have given us that term, doing a Fulham. At least I think it was them. Why is this one different?
The coach is the starting point. He's come in with a clear style of play that suits the players that Fulham initially had. He's improved individual players, the likes of Tim Ream, who I think has played every single league game under Silva. Aleksandar Mitrovic is the obvious one. But you can go through a lot of these players that may have been at Fulham for some time and never really shown what they could do in the Premier League, and they're now doing that. Add in some very good recruitment players that would work with what Silva wants to do in his tactical system. You've got the ideal recipe to bridge what is quite a huge gap now between the Championship and the Premier League. And you look at the impact that João Palhinha has had in midfield. Andreas Pereira has come in and filled another hole. Fulham lost Fabio Carvalho, who's gone to Liverpool, and I know he's not been involved so much there, but he was massively important for what they did in the Championship. And it's just those right additions. Issa Diop at the back. Bernd Leno's been enormous. And when you get so many hits rather than misses, that can be the difference. And, previously Fulham have recruited some good players. Andre Frank Anguissa's now at Napoli and competing for the Champions League. Right. Ademola Lookman's, third top scorer in Serie A, I think now. These are players that they've brought in, and they've not made it work. They've not brought that synergy between coach and player. Whereas here, Silva's got a good amount of influence, works very well with those upstairs. And it's just come together in a really positive way. The atmosphere is very positive. The players are confident. And it just keeps going on and on and on. When you think it's going to stop, they just keep picking up results.
Incredible. The other signing we should mention is, of course, Manor Solomon, who midweek scored that goal again. People say it's a kind of a little bit Robin-esque. I was kind of reminded of, because you mentioned calling it the zona, the Solomon zone. Yeah. But in Italy, they used to speak about the Zona del Piero, because he used to come in on the left-hand side of the box and just curl one in from there, which is very much what Solomon's doing. What a player to have pop up at a time when it looked a little bit like Fulham might be running out of steam a bit.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, performance-wise, Fulham have dropped off a little bit. They're still sort of picking up the results, but Manor Solomon's now come in and really begun to make his mark, stepping in off that left flank. Almost cautious to give it too many labels. We've had Arjen Robben, Del Piero, maybe Eden Hazard in terms of his low centre of gravity as well.
And Prince was one we had on Monday. Prince Rogers Nelson, off the cover of Controversy. Yeah, check it out. But anyway, sorry.
But yeah, so Solomon's had a really difficult start to his Premier League life. I mean, 2022 for him was extraordinarily difficult, playing for Shakhtar Donetsk and obviously fleeing the war after Russia's invasion, a long and protracted transfer saga to get him to Fulham. And then after his debut from the bench against Liverpool, the next day in a behind-closed-doors friendly, injured his knee and was out for 4 months. So, he's only at Fulham for a year. He wants to make his mark in the Premier League, so he's had to wait. He's had to be very patient. I think the World Cup may have helped him just in that rehabilitation and adapting to Silva's style. And he's come in with some very, very impressive cameos from the bench. There's 4 goals in a row now. The clamour for his first Premier League start. We're talking about him in this sort of vein of form, and he hasn't started yet for Fulham in the Premier League. That feels like a matter of time. But again, Willian's been doing really well, so it's been hard to take his place in the team. But for Fulham, it's a massive boost. It's like a new signing, really, from January.
Any chance of him sticking around after the summer?
I think he will, but it's not a given. By all accounts, he's very happy at Fulham. He feels settled. It's a nice part of London. I think the project that Fulham have got going is very appealing. And of course, when the team are doing so well, that only adds to that sentiment. But it's an open question. Fulham signed him because he suspended his contract for a year at Shakhtar Donetsk. It's essentially a loan. He'll go back to Shakhtar, where he has 6 months left on his contract as things stand. They could sign him on a pre-contract agreement. But if they did that, he would then play for Shakhtar between the summer and January next year. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he will want to go back. But then Fulham would then have to negotiate a fee with Shakhtar. And the war is still ongoing as well. And the big question around this whole transfer was to do with FIFA regulations. And we've seen that Shakhtar have been left in a really difficult position by the fact that their foreign-based players could suspend their contracts for a year. Basically running down the value on those contracts, meaning they can't get much money at all. Fulham had agreed a fee really for Solomon initially before FIFA made those stipulations about players being able to suspend their contracts, and ultimately they got him for free instead. So it's a difficult situation for Shakhtar, but for Solomon, if he keeps up his form, he'll attract more interest too. Fulham, it's not the ideal situation, but they're very well placed to keep him.
Well, yet another goal, as we mentioned, in the 2-0 victory over Leeds on Tuesday. Tremendous excitement then to reach quarter-final again until the draw happened.
Yes, a load of excitement, especially with the draws to open. 4 Premier League teams in the last 8, and then you draw Manchester United away, and Manchester United in really good form. So, yeah, it's tempered that excitement about returning to Wembley. Fulham fans have some really great memories of Wembley in recent years, but in the playoffs in the Championship, to do so in a major tournament would be something altogether different. The club have never won a major trophy. They reached the final in 75, I think.
76, was it? Was it 75?
75, yeah.
75 against West Ham.
That's the one. So, there's a lot of excitement, but, anything's possible. I think Man United have a Europa League game away in Betis a couple of days before.
Right.
So maybe that will help. But, Fulham have been competitive in all the games that they've played this year. Their record against the top 6 at the moment hasn't been as good. I think they've lost just once to teams below them in the table, and that was away at West Ham. So they can maintain that kind of form and maybe bloody the nose of Man United. Andreas Pereira going back there, who knows?
Who knows indeed. I did see a stat last week that since the World Cup, only Man United had accrued more points in the Premier League than Fulham, which speaks volumes. Crikey. Before any of that, on Monday, it's Brentford. Is that away?
It is, yes.
Palinja's out for that. Sasha Lukic, another of the new arrivals, coming in.
Yeah, so Lukic is coming from Torino. They needed a bit more depth in midfield because they've been very reliant on a trio that have done incredibly well, which is Palinja, Harrison Reed alongside him. He's sort of got a new role actually, and Silva's sort of evolved his game to be more box to box than just a 6, and then Andreas Pereira as well. But if one of them is injured, they can struggle. And the last time Fulham were without Palinja, they lost 4-1 to Newcastle, and it didn't end so well. So Lukic has been brought in for that. I do wonder if this game has come a little too soon, or that they would have liked more time to sort of bed him in a bit, get him up to Premier League speed. But he comes with good pedigree at Torino. Did very well at the World Cup as well for Serbia. So looks like another shrewd addition and not a huge outlay on him.
And Mitrovic came back as well midweek, didn't he?
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
big boost. Excellent. All right, Peter, thank you so much for joining us. Look forward to hearing more of the Cottagers escapades from you soon. The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.